What keeps you up at night? Is it the buzzing thoughts you can't shut down? The looming dread of tomorrow's responsibilities? Or maybe it's that familiar feeling, lying in bed, eyes wide open, begging your brain to switch off, but it just won't. You're not alone. Millions experience this same nightly struggle. For some, sleeplessness is temporary. A stressful day, a noisy neighbor, a restless pet, these pass. But for others, the worry itself becomes the problem. And here's the twist. What if the very thing keeping you awake is your fear of not sleeping? Strange, isn't it? You lie there aware that you're not falling asleep. Minutes turn into hours. Your mind races. What if I'm tired tomorrow? What if I never fall asleep? That fear begins to spiral, and suddenly you're not just tired. You're wired, anxious, trapped in a mental tug of war between needing rest and panicking about not getting it. And this is where it all begins. Not just insomnia, but a loop. A loop so many people fall into, night after night, not because of noise or caffeine or late night TV, but because of fear. And that fear, it's powerful enough to trick your brain into staying awake, even when your body is begging for rest. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the stress that starts with one bad night and turns into weeks, months, or even years of restless sleep. Because understanding why this happens is the first step to breaking free. John is 72. He's retired, lives in a quiet neighborhood, and has a nightly routine he's followed for years. Dinner at 6, a walk at 7, in bed by 10. But despite doing everything right, John hasn't had a good night's sleep in over a decade. It started subtly, a few nights where he couldn't fall asleep until after midnight, then a few more where he woke up every hour. Eventually, those off nights became his normal. But the hardest part wasn't the fatigue, it was lying in the dark, wondering what was wrong with him. John tried everything. He bought blackout curtains. He cut out coffee. He even avoided his afternoon naps. But none of it worked. The more he focused on trying to sleep, the more elusive it became. He started to dread bedtime. He'd watch the sun go down with a sinking feeling in his chest. I wasn't just tired, he told his doctor. I was afraid. I was afraid of going to bed and failing to sleep. And that fear, that pressure, kept me awake even longer. It's a story many older adults know all too well. For John, sleep became a battlefield. The place meant for rest turned into a nightly struggle. He wasn't fighting external noise or bad habits. He was fighting his own thoughts, his own stress, and the expectation that he should just be able to close his eyes and drift off. But here's the thing, John didn't have a broken body. He had a loop of fear that needed to be broken. And once he understood that, things started to change. So what exactly is happening when someone like John can't sleep? Not because he's not tired, but because he's too stressed to rest? Let's unpack the biology behind it. When we're stressed, our brain activates what's known as the fight or flight response. It's an ancient survival system designed to keep us alert in the face of danger. But here's the twist. The brain doesn't distinguish between a real threat, like a bear in the woods, and a perceived one, like the fear of not sleeping. So when John lies in bed, worrying he won't fall asleep, his body interprets that as danger. His brain releases a flood of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenocorticotropic hormone. His heart rate rises. His blood pressure goes up. His muscles tense. His breathing becomes shallow. And what's the result? Instead of winding down for the night, John's body gears up for battle. This is known as hyperarousal, a state where the brain stays on high alert, constantly scanning for threats no matter how small. A creaking floorboard, a twitch in the leg, the slightest sound. Everything feels amplified. And here's where the loop tightens. The more John stays awake, the more anxious he becomes. And the more anxious he becomes, the more alert his body gets. This biological tug of war robs him of the very thing he needs to calm down, sleep. But it goes deeper. During healthy sleep, our brain slows its metabolism to conserve energy, specifically glucose. Glucose is brain fuel, but in people with stress-induced insomnia, PET scans have shown the opposite. Their brains burn through glucose even while they're asleep, as if they're still in a state of fight or flight. So instead of waking up refreshed, they wake up exhausted, like they ran a marathon in their sleep. And that exhaustion, it only fuels more worry the next night. That's the vicious cycle. Fear triggers stress. Stress prevents sleep. Poor sleep creates more fear. And around it goes. But once you recognize that this loop is driven by biology, not weakness, not laziness, you gain a powerful insight. It's not your fault. Your body is trying to protect you. It just needs help remembering how to rest. Some people say, but I am sleeping. I go to bed, I wake up 8 hours later. Why am I still so tired? That's a fair question, because sleep isn't just about how long you're in bed, it's about what your brain is doing while you're there. Let's go back to John for a moment. After years of struggling with sleep, he began to accept that some nights he technically slept, but it didn't feel like rest. He would wake up groggy, confused, and heavy, as if he hadn't slept at all. This isn't unusual. In fact, many people with stress-induced insomnia don't experience total sleeplessness. Instead, they fall into what researchers call low-quality sleep, light, fragmented, and shallow. Their bodies may be still, their eyes closed, but inside the brain is still running. And here's the science behind it. During normal, healthy sleep, your metabolism slows down. This allows the body and brain to repair, reset, and recharge. Glucose, the brain's main energy source, is conserved, stored for when you need it most, during waking hours. But in people with stress-related sleep issues, studies using PET scans show that their brains don't power down properly. Instead, they stay slightly activated, burning through glucose all night long. That means by the time they wake up, their energy reserves are already drained. Imagine going to bed with a full tank, but waking up on empty. Not because you moved or worked, but because your brain kept running, chasing shadows, solving imaginary problems, responding to silent alarms. This explains why you can sleep all night and still feel defeated in the morning. And here's the scary part. The more you experience this kind of shallow sleep, the harder it becomes to recognize the difference. People begin to accept exhaustion as their new normal. They forget what real rest feels like. But you don't have to accept that, because once you understand that stress isn't just stealing your time in bed, it's stealing the depth of your rest. You can begin to change how you approach sleep entirely. Let's pause for a moment and look ahead. What happens if the cycle of poor sleep and stress continues, unchecked, for months or even years? Chronic insomnia isn't just about feeling groggy. It's not just being a little tired. Over time, the consequences can be serious, even dangerous. In a study published by the American Heart Association, researchers found that people with long-term insomnia had a 45% higher risk of cardiovascular disease than those without sleep issues. That's nearly the same level of risk as heavy smoking, and it doesn't stop there. Another study from the Diabetology and Metabolic Syndrome Journal showed that persistent sleep loss disrupts the body's glucose regulation. In plain terms, insomnia can triple your risk of developing type 2 diabetes because your cells stop responding to insulin properly. Why? Because your body was never designed to live in constant alert. Stress hormones like cortisol are helpful in short bursts, but when they flood your system every night, they begin to interfere with everything: your blood sugar, your memory, your mood, your immune function, and yes, even your brain. Older adults who struggle with inconsistent, shallow sleep have been shown to suffer faster declines in memory and cognitive performance. One study even found that high variability in sleep efficiency, how well you actually sleep, was linked with significant reductions in problem-solving ability and verbal recall in people over 65. So no, it's not just in your head. It's not about getting old. It's not about being too sensitive. Chronic poor sleep causes real measurable harm. And here's the worst part. The longer it lasts, the harder it becomes to notice. Because exhaustion becomes your baseline. You forget what clarity feels like. You forget what real rest sounds like. You may even start blaming yourself. But the truth is, this isn't your fault. It's your biology sounding the alarm. It's your body saying, I can't keep living like this. And the good news, once you listen to that alarm, you can begin the process of turning things around. One night, one change at a time. But what if you're not actually suffering from insomnia? This might sound strange, but there's a condition that's often mistaken for chronic insomnia, and it requires a completely different approach. It's called delayed sleep phase disorder, or DSPD. Unlike insomnia, DSPD isn't about being unable to sleep. It's about when your body naturally wants to sleep. People with DSPD have a circadian rhythm, your internal biological clock, that runs longer than 24 hours. That means their sleep-wake cycle slowly drifts later and later each day. So instead of feeling tired at 10 p.m., someone with DSPD might not get sleepy until 2, 3, even 4 a.m. But here's the key. If left alone and allowed to sleep on their own schedule, they can often sleep deeply and wake up feeling perfectly rested. John, our 72-year-old, was once told he had insomnia. But after keeping a sleep log, his doctor realized something important. On weekends, when John stayed up reading until 1 a.m., he'd sleep soundly until 9 and wake up refreshed. On weekdays, when he forced himself to sleep at 10, he tossed and turned until 4. That's not insomnia. That's DSPD. Studies have shown that up to 8% of people diagnosed with chronic insomnia may actually have DSPD, and treating them like traditional insomniacs, forcing early bedtimes, pushing sleep medication, often makes things worse. Why does this matter? Because if you're one of those people, the issue isn't anxiety or stress, it's timing. And the solution isn't sedatives. It's aligning your lifestyle with your natural rhythm, or gradually resetting that rhythm with light exposure, structured sleep times, and behavioral strategies. The bottom line, if you struggle to sleep at normal hours, but feel fine on your own schedule, if you're always wide awake late into the night, but sleep deeply once you do drift off, you might not be broken. You might just be wired differently. And recognizing that difference can change everything. Let's try something different for a moment. Hold up one hand, 5 fingers up. Now put a finger down if any of these sound familiar to you. Put a finger down if you lie awake in bed for more than 20 minutes, night after night, with your eyes open and your brain racing. Put a finger down if you wake up in the morning, feeling like you haven't rested at all, even after 8 hours in bed. Put a finger down if you regularly wake up in the middle of the night and can't fall back asleep for hours. Put a finger down if you find yourself clenching your jaw, curling your arms tightly, or holding tension in your chest as you try to fall asleep. Put a finger down if you've gone more than 3 nights a week for over 3 months struggling to sleep or stay asleep. How many fingers do you have left? If you put down 2 or more, your sleep is being affected by stress, maybe more than you realize. And if you put down 3 or more, it's time to take a closer look, not to panic, not to self-diagnose, but to become aware, because awareness is the first step toward healing. This little game isn't a diagnosis, it's a mirror, a way for you to check in with your own body, your own patterns, And sometimes the most powerful thing we can do for our health is pause, reflect, and say, yes, that's me. I see it now. So now that you've seen the signs, let's talk about what you can do. So what do you do when your own mind has become the thing keeping you awake? The answer isn't always pills. In fact, for many people, especially older adults, sleep medications only offer temporary relief and can lead to dependence, side effects, or even worse, sleep in the long run. Instead, the most effective, sustainable change comes from something much simpler: changing your relationship with sleep. Let's start with your environment. First, your bedroom should feel like a cue, not a command. Instead of walking into your room and thinking, I have to fall asleep now, what if your room simply reminded your brain it's time to rest? That means keeping your bedroom dark and comfortably cool. It means removing clocks you can see from bed, because watching time pass only adds pressure. It means using your bed for one thing only: sleep. Okay, two things, but you get the idea. If you're lying awake for more than 20 minutes, don't force it. Get up, leave the room, do something gentle, like reading, stretching, or even just sitting in the dark, and come back to bed only when you start to feel sleepy again. Because the more you associate your bed with struggle, the harder it becomes to rest there. Next, think about light. Your body has a clock, your circadian rhythm, and it depends on light cues to know when it's time to sleep or wake. In the morning, try to get natural light within the first hour of waking. Just 10 minutes outside can help anchor your body's rhythm. At night, dim your lights about an hour before bed. And yes, put away the phone, the tablet, the TV. That blue light is sending your brain a message. It's daytime. Stay alert. Instead of scrolling, try listening to calming music. Try journaling your thoughts. Get the noise out of your head and onto the page. These habits may seem small, but they're powerful, because instead of relying on willpower, I have to sleep now, you're giving your body the space and signals it needs to want to sleep. And for someone who's been stuck in the stress sleep loop, that change in mindset can be the beginning of real, lasting rest. Let's talk about something that doesn't often get mentioned when it comes to sleep: your diet. Yes, what you eat, and when you eat, can have a surprising impact on how well you sleep. In a 2025 study published in Scientific Reports, researchers found that people who followed the MIND diet, rich in leafy greens, berries, whole grains, and low in saturated fats and refined sugars, slept 20% more deeply and reported 30% less anxiety compared to those with high-fat, high-sugar diets. Why does that matter? Because when your diet is heavy in processed foods and sugar, your body struggles to regulate energy. You may feel jittery at night. You may wake up suddenly. You may crash during the day. But when you nourish your body with real, whole foods, your blood sugar stays stable, your hormones stay balanced, and your brain stops receiving those false alarms that keep it in alert mode. So what does this look like in real life? Eat dinner earlier, ideally 2 to 3 hours before bed, so your body isn't busy digesting when it's time to rest. Avoid alcohol and caffeine in the evening. Even if they help you fall asleep, they tend to disrupt the deeper, more restorative stages of rest. Add more fiber, beans, fruits, vegetables. These keep your gut happy, and a calm gut supports a calm brain. And don't forget your daily rhythm. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. Your body craves consistency. It's like setting your internal clock each morning. The more stable your rhythm, the easier sleep comes. Try to get sunlight in the morning. Try gentle movement during the day. And make dinner your lightest, simplest meal, not your heaviest. Because your body doesn't just shut off at night. It's doing important work: repairing, processing, restoring. And it needs the right tools to do that job well. So instead of reaching for a quick fix, try fueling your body the way it was meant to be fueled. Instead of thinking, what can I take to sleep? Ask, what can I change to make my body want to sleep? That shift from force to support is what starts the real healing. So let's take a breath and a quick look back. If you've made it this far, you now understand something most people don't. Insomnia isn't just about being tired. It's about how stress rewires your brain. It's about how fear of sleeplessness becomes the cause of it. It's about how shallow sleep can leave you just as drained as no sleep at all, and how chronic poor sleep, left unchecked, can chip away at your health, bit by bit, night after night. But it's not hopeless. You've learned the difference between insomnia and delayed sleep phase disorder, so you can stop blaming yourself when it's really about timing. You've tried the finger test, you've looked in the mirror, and maybe you saw yourself more clearly than you expected. Now it's time to try something different. Tonight, don't demand sleep. Invite it. Create a safe, quiet space. Eat well. Dim the lights. Breathe slowly. Step away from the screen. Step into rest. And if it doesn't come right away, that's okay. Because one bad night doesn't define you. And one small change can start a new rhythm. Remember, you're not broken. You're not weak. You're not alone. You are someone learning to sleep again, on your own terms with knowledge, patience, and care. So tonight, try this. Don't fight the night. Welcome it.